discussing the consumption space before we went into the break, but now let's continue with that. Aditya Soman, who's the senior research analyst at CLSA, joins in as well. Aditya, one of the sectors of the day on Friday happened to be the quick service restaurants, and that's largely because of Jubilant FoodWorks' strong performance, 9.1% like-for-like growth, head and shoulders above everyone else as well. And right now, as we speak, a couple of other names, you had the likes of Devyani International and Sapphire, both of them buzzing around as well. Basis the numbers that have been reported and basis the triggers that may come about, what's your view on this space? What would the top picks be? And is there a possibility, according to you, where, both Devyani and Sapphire, perhaps if, have any agreement between the two of them, makes them an investable idea?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on, and it's always good to be on the show. So firstly, great question. So look, the QSR space has been sort of out of favor for, I would say, the last 6 or 7 quarters. And in fact, if you look across the board, we've generally had relatively disappointing numbers, even this quarter. I think that being said, we are starting to see the worst behind us. They are a big beneficiary of the GST cuts, particularly on the input cost side. So while we haven't seen the headline GST on the output move, I think a lot of their inputs did see GST benefit, and that should flow through in terms of more attractive pricing. There's also the most QSRs have come to terms with the aggregators, and that's been a sort of key theme where either companies like Jubilant and Domino's in particular have done a great job in getting their own app up and running, but we've also got the other players working a lot better with the aggregators. That being said, overall, we still remain quite cautious on the space. I think the only outperform idea we have here is RBA or Burger King. And 2 reasons for this. One, I still think the sort of competition driven by the aggregators remains elevated. So if you look at sort of profitability growth across the sector, including for the likes of Jubilant, which had sort of strong LFL numbers, profitability growth still remains relatively muted. And our concern here is that these companies will continue to have give up more on gross margins to drive growth. That being said, the worst as far as LFL or SSG is probably behind us. And from here, with improving momentum with the festive season and the GST cuts, you should see better growth.
And what about...
And on your question on Devyani and...
Yeah.
Yeah, on your question on Devyani Sapphire, while I don't want to speculate on any sort of transaction, obviously we've seen in the past that where you have multiple franchisees run operations, it becomes a little more complex. So if you have a single franchisee, we've seen those businesses do a lot better than those with multiple franchisees. So to that extent, at least from our conversation with investors, any sort of transaction would be welcome. Though, again, I don't want to speculate on whether this happens or not.
All right. Hi, Aditya. Good to have you on the show and hope you're having a good conference. What about on the durable side? How are you all seeing demand pan out? Is it as much as you're expected? Has Q3 been a little bit better? What's your take?
Yeah, no, great question. I think even on the durable side, we've seen an improvement, obviously, in demand in the festive season, given the GST cuts. If you look at the paint sector, for example, I think we've seen after a few quarters, Asian Paints come out and record better numbers, and we've got commentary from them improving as well. So all in all, we expect an improvement in consumption. Now, we've put out a big 480-page report on the consumption in India. And one of the themes we're highlighting here is how the affluent are becoming even more affluent. So we expect the affluent and middle class cohort to go from 50 million households today to about 85 million households in 10 years. And to my mind, this will be a big driver of premiumization and of durables consumption. So structurally remain very positive on the theme, though I would be selective on the names based on where evaluations lay.
Since you're speaking about the premiumization space, I have a question on 2 particular areas, and I don't know whether you cover them directly or not. One of them would be Alcobev, the premium player right now, Diageo, also looking to strategically review its stake in RCB. So could that be an important event with some more capital coming into the business, driving premiumization further? Or would you look at, some of the mid-tier companies which are now increasing their premium part of the portfolio, the likes of Radico, Khaitan, etc.?
Yeah, no, great question. I think overall on the space, I'm very positive. So on the Alcobev space, particularly the premiumization in the space, right? So the prestige and above category, as you know, has shown very strong growth across the board for many companies. Now, we've had a bit of a disruption because of sort of the tax change in Maharashtra. But all in all, if you exclude out Maharashtra, growth has been very strong. Particularly if I were to dig in for companies like Radico or even ABD, I think we've seen them really launch many premium brands and them growing much faster. So we are seeing a significant uplift in revenue per case. And this is a trend we expect to continue. Especially as they go beyond sort of just the whiskey category into sort of newer spaces as well. Coming to sort of Diageo, even here, I think the whole sort of free trade agreement with the UK should be a huge positive. I think in the previous quarter, we already saw an uplift in the gross margin driven by higher sort of BIO primary sales. Now, it will be sort of interesting to watch how those primary sales convert into secondary sales as we enter the festive season. It should be a fairly strong festive season across the board. So, yeah, as I mentioned, we are positive on the space. And I think we are just at the start of this whole run of premiumization for the companies, whether it's sort of the market leaders like Diageo, but also the mid-sized companies.
How much in your model have you priced in the stake of RCB in your SOTP?
Yeah, so at this point, we've got about 1.27 billion valuation in US dollars for RCB. I know that press reports have suggested about $2 billion valuation. So anything sort of around that mark or higher will be seen as a positive. Now, from a cash flow perspective, this has sort of been a key focus for Diageo ever since they took over UNSP to focus on sort of the core business and over time sort of offload the non-core businesses. And I think with this remains on track.
All right, take that point. Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining in. Quick conversation. Continue to do more of these and not just at your investor conferences, but maybe your compliance give you more freedom to speak to us more regularly as well. Wish you good luck. Take a short